Okay.
So is my
Thank you, Ryan. And welcome and good morning to every one of you who are here and who are joining us on Zoom this morning. Welcome to the Namakwa Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Laurel Liefert. I serve as the minister of this warm and welcoming, creative, justice-loving community of seekers. So I think we have a few visitors here today. Today is a special service in which we're featuring some of the younger generation that is coming up behind some of us who have a little bit of gray hair. And I wonder if you would like to raise your hand and introduce you if you're joining us for the first or second time. So I think David and yeah. So welcome to David and Gail. And in the back there. Hello, Clay. Welcome. And you, Carol. And hello, Marcia. So do we have any visitors on Zoom? Okay, in that case, let us give a warm, tangible welcome by clapping and saying we're happy you're with us today. I think you all know that the COVID positivity rate has risen to like 11%. So we are all wearing masks and being socially distant. You'll see that our coffee hour, instead of being indoors, will be an opportunity to go inside our social hall, grab a cup of coffee, and then enjoy our outdoors. Boy, Colorado has such crazy weather. Some of our relatives who live elsewhere are just kind of baffled by how it could be 88 degrees one day and snow the next. Personally, I love the variety. And so let us now begin by having our bell rung in our bell tower. To let the neighborhood know that we are here.
And now let us light our chalice. With the kindling of this flame, may we open our hearts and minds to building a new way. Seeking wisdom, we look back to those who have come before us. We listen deeply to all with whom we share this time. And may we be mindful of the 7 generations who will come after us. For the children of our children, let us keep the circle whole. Come, let us worship together. And now if you'll all join me in reciting the congregational affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church and service its call. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our gathering song is one that we sang at the end of last week's service. So how many of you, either here or on Zoom, were able to see that remarkable, powerful film that our intern Claire did? So that is yet another amazing, he's 32, and the impact that he's going to have with his creative gifts and his big heart are going to be incredible. And so if you will please rise as you're willing and able and turn in the teal hymnal to number 1017, Building a New Way. We are building a new way. We retain the tradition of a nomadic group of people.
I'll hold the bowls.
We retain the tradition here for joys and sorrows that is a nomadic tradition because most of the places that Namakwa met for the first 10 or 11 years didn't allow the lighting of candles. And so what we do is we transfer, this actually goes the other way. We transfer a pebble into what I consider this warm turquoise bowl that represents the embrace of our community. And so we begin by asking whether anyone here or on Zoom is celebrating a birthday or anniversary. Marion Cox. Oh, man. You are an amazing specimen. Happy birthday to you, Marion. Sally Henry. Oh, tell that little guy happy birthday for us. Well, he has a right to do it. How about anybody on Zoom? Right, so Rebecca Williamson and Tom Mitchell celebrate their anniversary next Wednesday. So happy anniversary to you too. And Tracy Jones. And Tracy has a granddaughter named Allison, who turns 3. Happy birthday to her. And then I would like to ask whether anyone has a personal joy or sorrow that you would like to share, in which case, Leo, you can come on up. And why don't you use this microphone and say your name and then briefly share your joy or sorrow.
Hello, my name is Leo, and I have a joy to share, and that is that my wife had a very successful knee surgery, and she's hopping around and climbing the stairs and doing really well. So thank you.
Sweet.
That we're happy that she's healing.
Hi, I'm Vicki, and I have a concern and a joy, but before I share them, I want to say that one of my walks in the neighborhood this week, I ran into a neighbor who said, I have been watching your services on Zoom, and she commented about how she just felt what a warm and caring congregation we were. So that made me feel really good. My concern is for my older sister, who will be 91 in June. She's having some heart issues, which will mean she will not get to attend our family reunion. And it breaks my heart, but because I'm afraid there may be some others who will need to stay behind with her. So her name's Nita, if you would just send her some positive energy. And then my joy is that this morning, about between 7 and 8 in Ecuador time, my daughter summited the big Cayambe mountain.
Ooh.
She's still hoping to get in Chimborazo, which is even higher, but this one was 19,000. And she would say, don't forget the 36 feet. So.
Oh.
So anybody else? Does anybody else here in our room have a joy or sorrow? And how about Sarah? Do you have any Zoomers?
Yes, Kendra has joy. He starts a new position on 6 for better pay.
Ooh, Pedro Lopez, congratulations. Good luck.
Tam Beck has joy. The social justice ministry working with Together Colorado, effective shifting the city council's conversation on homelessness to a more compassionate.
So that's Tam Paquette, who is our new social justice chair. And she and some others from the community organizing group Together Colorado attended a city council meeting and were able, with their presence and their words, to shift the city council towards a more compassionate view towards those who who are unhoused among us.
We have one more, Karen Massaro.
So Karen Massaro, you have our thoughts with you as you have another MRI to see whether or not you're going to need heart surgery. So as you all know, I have a tradition that I've had the entire time I'm here of putting the names of people who I'm praying for in the morning on my altar. And so I will add some of those. So if there are no more joys or sorrows, let us consider that these candles, that are lit up here represent the joys and sorrows beyond our community. And we know that there are endless moments of joy and a lot of suffering in our world. And so we send out comfort. And if you'll repeat after me to end our joys and sorrows, in our joy and in our sorrow,
In our joy and in our sorrow,
we are not alone.
we are not alone. Good morning, everyone. I moved to Loveland in 1983. I was 33 years old. I had moved from Madison, Wisconsin, the progressive heart of the Midwest. My cohorts there were similar in education, in interests, in activism, and fairly diverse in age. I moved to Loveland, was hired to work for a nonprofit, and started to get the lay of the land of my new home. I was looking for my tribe, and one evening I decided to go to an Audubon meeting in Berthoud. It was in the basement of the bank building, and as I walked down the stairs, I could just see the tops of everyone's head, and they were either gray or bald or gray and balding. Not a problem, not a problem. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, there were already a half a dozen people there to greet me. More than one said, "Oh, it's so good to have a young person here." In fact, I started thinking, they want to take my youth from me. It was admittedly a weird thought, but it opened my eyes to the new environment I had come to. I regularly found myself in the company of people much older than me and started getting used to often being the youngest person in the room. There was some power in that role, it turned out, but also some expectation that I would be smarter, more with it, more able, with more energy, and ready to take over the reins of the committee, the project, the board, or the organization. This was a whole new feeling. I was needed and there were high expectations purely because I was so much younger than the group. We elders, and now I get to count myself as one of those too, do expect a lot of the young people coming into our midst. I have that same feeling. My successors have entered the room. And they have. They might not be quite ready though. They may have school, a new relationship, a marriage, children, jobs, hobbies, all kinds of commitments. So their interest in however they come to us should be honored as interest. Their fresh, unconventional ideas should be welcomed. And down the road, with the benefit of our wisdom and their increasing comfort, and if we don't scare them off, they will take over, thankfully. May it be so. And now if we can have the ushers come forward. Each week we share your generous contributions with an organization. And this quarter we are sharing it with SAINT, Senior Alternatives in Transportation, who provide rides for people who can't get themselves to appointments and other things. So please be generous. The ushers will please come forward.
And as we bless our offering, please repeat after me. We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings,
We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings,
to the vision of this congregation,
to the vision of this congregation,
which is to radiate love, peace, and justice,
which is to radiate love, peace, and justice.
as together we work to grow beloved community.
As together we work to grow beloved community. Thank you.
These beloved and familiar words written by Khalil Gibran in The Prophet. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. So we all have been arrows launched by the bows of our parents and our ancestors. And we now, many of us, are in a position like Kathy, going from an arrow to a bow. And there is a responsibility that comes with that. And some of you may have heard of the term 7 generations. And so do you know what that refers to? It's the Haudenosaunee, also known as the Mohawk, who have a notion that while you are here, you are preparing the way and should be mindful of people who are yet unborn, and keep in mind the 7 generations past the one that you are living in. And if we only had that kind of attitude for those, many of those in power who have just short-term goals and short-term greed, that is what is causing the devastation on the planet that we all share. There's a quote from one of the chairs of a Haudenosaunee team of Native Americans, and he said, "If you ask me what is the most important thing that I have learned about being a Haudenosaunee, it's the idea that we are connected to a community, but a community that transcends time. A community that transcends time. And coming with the gift of life is a responsibility to be stewards not only of the things that are within our control in our lifetime, but also a responsibility to those who have not yet come." So some of you may know the phrases of honoring those who have come before us, our ancestors, and also honoring those who will come after us. So we have with us today some really remarkable examples of some of those who are coming up and are of the generation that will inherit the earth that many of us have done our best to be good stewards of. And so sitting among us are the grandparents of two of those young artists who we will feature not in person today, but in the films that they have made. And so some of our new members that some of you may not know yet are John and Bonnie Stegner, if you want to raise your hands. So they are the proud
Hi,
grandparents.
my name is Evan, and I am a film MFA student at
of
Syracuse
Evan.
University.
And my name is Mia, and
Wait, not quite yet, Sarah.
I'm an independent singer-songwriter.
We are the proud
So they're not here in person today, but they did film a short introduction to their two videos that will play in just a moment. But let me just mention that I'm so thrilled, John and Bonnie, to have you with us. And it was several months ago when our young intern Claire and I did a service that John wrote to both Claire and I afterwards and sent us some of those videos. And it just kind of blew my mind how amazing they were, both in the artistic ability to actually produce something like that, but also in the messages that are in those productions. And not represented in the two videos that you'll see in a minute is yet another one of your grandchildren, Johnny Mack, who is a student at the Colorado State University. And I loved it, John, when you sent me a video of him playing his guitar. It was at the Student Center at CSU. And you introduced it and said, in the tradition of our clan. And what I want to do is plant a seed here at Namaqua that many of the social justice actions that already have been taken and will be taken in the future will be in the tradition of our Namaqua clan. And so Johnny, what he was doing is protesting. There was a homophobic and transphobic preacher who had come on campus. And so he was there at the student, at the, let's see, it was at the Student Union, at the Student Center at CSU, protesting with his art and his young voice. So Maya Stegner is a storyteller at heart. This young one views music as an avenue to ask questions, seek answers, and ponder both personal and collective pieces of human experience. In Maya's mind, no topic is too big or too small to explore. From the risks of treasuring a newfound friendship to the ethereal appeal of bath time. So she's a graduate of Emerson College in Boston, credentialed by the Berklee School of Music. And I imagine that she has produced now more than 6 albums, and her music is streamed in over 80 countries around the world. And then her older brother, Evan, is an award-winning writer, musician, artist, and filmmaker with an interest in compassionate storytelling that challenges oppressive power structures. So after the short introduction that Sarah will show in just a minute, you'll see first the music video Zoetic. That was a collaboration with both Evan and Mia. And Evan produced the video, and Mia, who was the vocalist, you'll hear her voice, created the original music and lyrics. And you'll see that together they create a beautiful, positive message. And then after that, well, why don't I introduce what comes next after we've seen the introduction and the collaboration.
My name is Evan, and I am a student at Syracuse University.
My name is Mia, and I'm an independent singer-songwriter.
We are the proud grandkids of John and Bonnie Stegner, our Nana and Papa.
We have 2 pieces of work that we get to share with you today. The first one is a music video that Evan made for my song called Zoetic, which is sort of a song about looking for beauty in everyday moments and sort of appreciating the little things in life as well as the bigger things that we typically turn to for inspiration.
The other is an animated film that I made that it's can be interpreted in many ways, but it's intended to be about gender identity in the way that these sort of rigid categories are often imposed on us from our kind of resisting in pursuit of authentic selfhood. We hope you enjoy our work. Thank you so much.
And then Sarah, why don't you go ahead and play both of them, and then I'll make a few remarks after Evan's film.
Have you ever been blown away by something you see every day? And you don't expect it, but you don't correct it, 'cause you want that feeling to stay. You can't force feeling caught up in awe. You can't force seeing beauty in a flaw. So when it comes, let it, don't delete, rewrite, or edit. Don't refuse to let your frozen heart thaw. Little things can carry you through all your biggest feelings. When you find yourself resistant to looking at anything but your ceiling, let a TV show be what makes you care to know about what happens next. And being alive, let a cup of tea be what makes you feel anything other than vexed. The other day I was walking alone at night, and I felt something other than the logical fright. This freezing cold breeze cuts right through to the bone. Sharing it with strangers makes me feel less alone. There are people I can't help but like. Every once in a while my soul levels will spike. Who knows if it's mutual? That seems unusual. I don't know why I never say something when someone feels right. And tonight I may waste some more time, and tomorrow I might do the same as though gravity. My hope is that soon I'll stop trying to learn the rules and start actually playing this game. Inside you is a little things can carry you through all your biggest feelings. When you find yourself resistant to looking at anything but your ceiling, let a TV show be what makes you care to know about what happens next. And being alive, let a cup of tea be what makes you feel anything other than vexed. Maybe I need to put my mask on first. I'm still becoming, being alone isn't the worst, but healthier me, and I think she'd agree, isn't something that can be rehearsed. I'd like to live life knowing that I have flown. I'm starting to think I can't do that alone, because I don't want to and I don't wish to daunt you. All I'm asking for is more wind in my bones.
The next video by Evan is actually, it's been internationally recognized now as an official selection of the World Festival of Animated Film. So Evan was his film was chosen to be included in a competition for that film festival of animated films. This was in the category of children 14 and older. He was the only American. All the others were from France, Taiwan, Germany, Israel. He was the only American. And actually, a lot of the other films were done by film companies. You know where he did it? It was when Syracuse University was only doing remote classes. So he was in his parents' basement, I think, for 5 months. And that was one little clay figure that somehow with stop animation, he was able to create that remarkable film. So we talk about how we're transcending binaries like male and female. And so that is his take on how to express the beauty of childhood, where we feel like we can be anyone who we want to be. And that is really what our community is about. One of the gifts of being part of a church community like this is it's multi-generational. And so in our religious education, we are teaching children how to be themselves and to know that they are loved for exactly who they are. Pardon? Well, you know, when I did the announcement of this service in our newsletter, I included both Mia and Evan's websites. And so John and Bonnie, can they see these? If you go to their websites, which will be in the newsletter for May, you'll be able to play that again. So Mia Stegner is a very prolific songwriter. And so John, her proud grandfather, was just saying, if you have something like Alexa, you can say, play Mia Stegner, and you'll have her music streaming for hours. And so Evan is on his way pretty soon to Croatia, right? That's where the film festival is. And, you know, he is just an incredibly thoughtful, patient, clearly young man who is among those coming up after us who are creative. And for those of you who were, like I grew up in the 50s, hasn't the world in terms of cultural attitudes changed so much? You know, who knew when my partner Francie and I, we've been together almost 40 years now, and finally we were able to get legally married. We never thought that that would happen in our lifetime. And so now with things like gender and sexuality and many other things, I think we're undergoing a sea change. So we also have in our midst a young artist who actually grew up in this community. Her parents, Don and Sarah, are upstairs, our tech people. I thank you very much today. But Elizabeth Ceriani is someone who, when I first came, we were at Ferguson High School, and you and your sister Emily would always disappear after the time for all ages and take care of the kids. And then I remember when you graduated from high school, we celebrated you, but now you may have been seeing some of her work up here. Why don't you come on up? So this is Elizabeth Ceriani. Will you tell us about your art studio?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay? Cool. I'm gonna move this a little bit. All right, so yes, my name's Elizabeth. It's nice to meet all of you who I've not met yet. Hello. And I'll tell you guys a little bit about a project I've been working on since 2020. I am the gallery manager and a studio artist over at Artworks Center for Contemporary Art down off of 3rd and Railroad. So come on in. We love seeing people there. You can come and see us. But this project currently is titled Say My Name, and I started it in 2020 after the killing of George Floyd. And it was essentially a protest piece in a way, because I couldn't go out and protest, didn't want to get COVID, and wanted to keep the family safe. And this is based off of marginalized groups and traumas they've each faced. So when I had originally created this, we were still in quarantine. And so I made a call on Instagram and TikTok, social media, gotta love it, especially for millennials. And with that, I asked marginalized groups, I said, okay, I would like anyone from the BIPOC, LGBTQ, disabled communities, anyone to come forward and send me a photograph and a story of a trauma you've gone through. It does not matter the trauma, it does not matter what you think is traumatic enough to be a part of this. And I had a lot of people asking about that. So I had originally almost 50 people email me, but now I'm down to 18 people because of just some of the things over time. But each of them sent me a photograph and a story, and it was interesting to see how they ranged in their storytelling, because it would either be a short paragraph or 3 pages long of a very, very detailed trauma that they've been through. And I realized very quickly with this project that I would not be able to essentially have 3 pages worth of a story for someone to read in a gallery. No one's going to do that. And so now over time, I've actually changed this project even more. And it's now going to be, once the final exhibition happens, still working on that. With the final exhibition, they are going to be voice recordings. So I'm asking each of my models to send me a voice recording of their story so you can listen to it in the gallery, and it brings more of an emotional tie and connection to each of them. And it's just interesting because of these stories, they're all incredibly different. For instance, I have Tanzila. So Tanzila, she was my first person to come forward. She's from India. She grew up in an emotionally abusive household. And the photo she sent me, she had done this for another project, and she photoshopped bruises along her face to kind of show a outward perspective of her abuse. Next down here, we have Isaac. They've got a long intersectional list, but they are trans, non-binary, disabled, and Indigenous Mexican American. And they're absolutely phenomenal, love them. Nikki, as an example, I actually went to college with her. I love her dearly. And she wrote a poem about racism she's come across. She is Dominican, from the Dominican Republic, and so she always gets tied in with like African Americans. She's not that. And so we keep on going. Another example, this is Harriet. She's from Wales. Her very young daughter has type 1 diabetes. And so she's constantly feeling like she failed. And just the stories she tells is heartbreaking. And she is also white passing. So stories of racism and sexism on top of that. Isaac is 19 years old, and he has come out as gay, and he is first generation in New Mexico, first generation immigrant. And these are just some of the stories that I have. I did not bring others just because of how dark some of their other people's stories are. But in the final exhibition, I'll tell you really quickly, I'm still looking for gallery space. So if your cousin's cousin happens to own a gallery, please let me know. I would be grateful to you, like exponentially. But for the final exhibition, we're going to have the portraits and the audio recordings. But I'm also going to have a space, make it a space for trauma, healing, and mourning, all in the same location. So I'm going to have a wall that people can write their own stories and leave a piece of themselves if someone has a material that they still have from a trauma. So something from a car accident or something, they are more than welcome to leave it at the gallery. So it's got a lot going on that's going to be a part of it. It's not going to be a happy show, even though it looks like it could be because of the portraits. It's not going to be happy. I'll just tell you that. And then, sorry, look at the time really quick. Okay. Sorry, I'll be really quick. One of my other projects, I'm gonna make a small little thing about that, is this series. It's called Chromophobia. And I'm not gonna go too far into this. This is obviously a print. The original is at the gallery if you guys want to come and see it. But this series is essentially based off of Western aesthetics and how in Western societies, there's a split between different forms of art and what is considered as masculine and powerful and amazing, and the other is considered feminine, infantile, exotic, and all these more demeaning words. So, for instance, masculine things would be line, form, sculpture, architecture. Color is seen as feminine, uncontrollable, and the need to be controlled. And so this piece, we have Perseus in the head of Medusa. But for the background colors I've selected, you might have seen this before, it's Artemisia Gentileschi's Judith beheading Holofernes. And it's a very, very gruesome painting. I love it. But I've taken the main 55 colors from that painting and have actually made a color scheme into this, with it running over the sculpture to dirty up and this pure idea of masculinity, and instead have now taken that away a little bit. So that's something I'm working on. That's going to be a new series that's coming out over the next years. We'll see. But yeah, so hopefully this project will be done by the end of this year and up in a gallery next year. Fingers crossed. That would be nice. But I just wanted to share that with you guys briefly.
Wow.
Thank you. Sorry, that was fast.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So what do you think about these remarkable folks? You know, the reason Claire isn't here today is that he's preaching in Cheyenne. But for those of you who would maybe want to see his film These Walls again, there's also a way, pretty soon we're going to be able to post it on our website, and that will also be available. But Elizabeth, thank you so much. And Stegners, your family tree is remarkable. And for all of you, let us now rise and sing our closing song. It's in the hardback hymnal. It's number 155, Circle Round for Freedom. We'll sing it through twice with the words, and then a third time we will ooh. Number 155. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, for each soul. For the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round.
Let's now extinguish our flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again at 11:30 back here for the congregational meeting. We need you all here.
Our benediction is from George Bernard Shaw. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community. And as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it what I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. Life is no brief candle to me. It is a sort of splendid torch, which I have got hold of for a moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. So for announcements, just quickly, we do have a congregational meeting coming up at 11:30. As I mentioned at the beginning, we will have an outdoor coffee hour. And so what you have is half an hour now to go in and you can grab a cup of coffee in the social hall, go outdoors and enjoy the company of your community of seekers and have a little bit of a snack to get your blood sugar up. So the meeting will start in half an hour at 11:30. And then next week is Memorial Day weekend, but we will have a service on Sunday. And then all the things that had to be postponed this week because of my little bout with COVID will be rescheduled. So stay tuned for example, open mic night will now be on June 3rd. And the other things that were postponed, we will schedule a little bit later. So blessings to each and all of you. And I hope that one of the lessons that you take from this is you never know who you're sitting next to in the pews. They probably have a remarkable story and some amazing people in their lives. And also thank you again to you, Elizabeth. And in absentia, please pass on our praise and thanks to Evan and to Mia. And I know that we all have some amazing people in our lives. So go in peace and come back in half an hour.